Hey, and welcome back to Charm and Circumstance. I'm Ashley Morgan from Ashley Morgan Interiors, and I look forward to sharing some interior design insights with you today. So, I want to talk about something that completely transforms a room, but is always left until the very end of a project. Window treatments, curtains, shades, shutters, drapery, whatever you call them. Window treatments are so much more than just functional coverings. They're the jewelry of a room. They soften hard edges, they add texture, they control light, they provide privacy, and they can make ceilings appear taller and windows appear grander. So, if you've ever stared at a bare window and wondered where to begin, this episode is for you. From floor plans to finishing touches, function to the feeling you get walking into a room. I'm Ashley Morgan, an interior designer with a love for beautiful living and a belief that great design should tell your story. I've spent over 20 years in the industry, and now I'm pulling back the curtain on interiors, sharing insight, inspiration, and the strategy behind well-designed spaces. Expect smart design talk, refined tips, and just the right mix of polish and personality. So pour something sweet and join me for a thoughtful conversation with a generous helping of charm and circumstance. Let's start out with the obvious question. Why invest in window treatments at all? Because bare windows can make a beautifully furnished room feel unfinished. Imagine a gorgeous outfit without any accessories. The basics may be there, but the polish is missing. Window treatments help define the mood of a space. Need a bedroom that feels serene and cocoon-like? Heavy drapes with black outlining might be your answer. Want a bright, airy breakfast nook? Roman shades in linen or woven woods can add warmth without blocking natural light. And beyond aesthetics, window treatments can improve energy efficiency, reduce glare, absorb sound, and protect furniture from sun damage. In other words, they work hard while looking beautiful. So let's break down the major categories of window treatments. First and foremost, drapery and curtains. Oftentimes when people are talking to me, they ask me what the appropriate term is. And to be honest, I have heard different things from different people. I think in school that I was taught that drapery moves on the rod, like you can shut it and open it, and curtains don't move. So they would be like fixed panels. But to be honest, I've also heard the opposite in the field working as an interior designer. And so I tend to call them drapery, whether they are fixed panels, fixed drapery that does not shut over the window and they're purely there for aesthetics, or they are functional drapes that actually close. So drapery or curtains, whichever you choose, these are fabric panels that hang from rods or tracks. Oftentimes, I think that broadly, people refer to curtains as lighter and more casual, whereas drapery is usually lined, fuller, and more tailored. But the biggest mistake I see is, of course, hanging them too low or too short. A simple rule is to mount the rod higher than the window frame, not right at the top of the window frame, often 4 to 8 inches above it. If you have just like a 8-foot ceiling, standard 8-foot ceiling, or even closer to the ceiling and allow the panels to just kiss the floor. I would say, generally speaking, it is best to go as high as possible, especially when you have just a 1-story room. And so expanding the length of the drapery, the full height of the wall is going to be the best looking option. It provides instant elegance and accentuates the height of the room. Whereas hanging the rod right at the top of the window frame does total opposite of shrinking the room down and making it visually heavy lower down. And then it doesn't seem as open as it actually does, as it actually is. I will say another common mistake I see with drapery is using the wrong fabrics. And oftentimes this is like store-bought, ready-to-go drapery panels. So it is cheaper fabric, it's not lined, and you hang them and the sunlight shines right through them because they're not lined, and it actually just takes away from the elegance of the room. Whereas you'd be better off just not having drapery panels. Okay, so the second and probably second most common form of window treatments is Roman shades. So Roman shades are one of my favorites. They're clean, they're timeless, and they're versatile. When raised, they fold neatly. And then when lowered, they create that soft tailored look. And you've got plenty of options with them as well, because you could have Roman shades that have a cord on both sides. So you get that swoop in the middle and then a little bit of one on either side. Or you can do a relaxed Roman shade, which is just the one big, like, relaxed swoop when they are pulled up. That's my favorite. You can also do very tailored crisp ones that is just a straight line. So it's just folding in straight lines when they are pulled up. There's just a lot of different options. And you can do, of course, many different materials as well. So you can have fabric, you can have shears, natural materials. They work beautifully in kitchens and breakfast rooms, in bathrooms and bedrooms. The fabric choices are endless, and they can be as understated or as bold as you like. And they can also be layered so easily with every other option of window treatment. Roman shades underneath drapery, Roman shades underneath a cornice, Roman shades underneath a valance. And if you're building your window treatments in layers over time, Roman shades are a great place to start because they can provide you with the privacy and are the first layer of that full finished treatment. So whatever you're going to add to it later, the drapery or the valance or whatever, that can always be added later as fixed panels and things like that, because those aren't functional. Those are going to just add to the aesthetic of the design. So the next material we can talk about is roller shades. So these are more of a modern feature, and they've come a long way. They used to be those like flimsy vinyl version from decades past, but today they come in woven textures, solar fabrics, blackout options, and sophisticated neutrals. So they're very minimalistic, practical, and can be surprisingly chic. They are definitely a functional option. So oftentimes they are even the ones that are completely blocking out the sun or the sight lines through windows, so they can be hidden up under the more aesthetic window treatment options and then pulled down behind to provide that complete privacy at night. And then the next window treatment style is shutters. Interior shutters are just classic and architectural. They add value to a home, and they never really go out of style. They're especially popular in Southern homes, traditional interiors, and rooms where you want privacy and light control without fabric. They are definitely on the pricier side, but they add a lot of visual interest without committing to a color palette, or that has to be worked with, through the rest of the interiors. And finally, don't forget about the cornices and the valances, which of course are not functional in any way, purely aesthetic. But these two, I don't think, get the attention that they deserve. They add so much value though when they're used properly. And these, of course, can sound very old-fashioned because they have been used through decades and not in a great way. Like they really only, they didn't add anything to the space when used maybe through the 80s, 70s, whatever it was. But they are so classic and I think really chic these days. So let's start with valances. Valance is a fabric treatment that covers just the top portion of a window. It can be soft and gathered, tailored and structured, or just somewhere in between. Just this week, I installed a valance on a window where it was just this gigantic, large picture window that has beautiful scenery outside. And so the client didn't want to block the view at all, but didn't want to leave this just bare, open window with no treatment whatsoever. And so I decided on using a valance because as it would cover up as little as possible of that view, and we would be able to incorporate fabrics that were used throughout that space to just kind of bring it all together. And it was done in this really cute, sophisticated box pleat valance across the top of the window. And so it looked really, I think, sophisticated and just pulled it together in a very tailored way. Valances are wonderful for adding color and texture, pattern, softness without committing to that full length drapery. And especially they can be especially charming in kitchens and breakfast nooks, bathrooms, or children's rooms. And here's the thing. Today's valances are not this fussy, over-decorated style that so many of us remember from the past, where they were like draped and wound over top of drapery rods and all of that shenanigan. Most valances are cleaner, simpler, and often tailored with really crisp lines or relaxed folds that feel fresh and timeless. So now let's talk about cornices, which do achieve a lot of the same thing as valances, but cornices are just the structured window toppers. And so they're usually built from a wooden frame and then upholstered in the fabric. And you really can think of them as architecture for your windows. They create a clean, finished look by concealing hardware and adding an extra layer of texture and design. And honestly, some softness to when they're surrounded by a bunch of hard surfaces. Cornices can be sleek and contemporary with straight lines, or they can be more decorative with curved shape and trim details. One of my favorite things about cornices is how they draw the eye upward. They can make ceilings feel taller and windows appear more substantial, especially in rooms with smaller or awkwardly proportioned windows. This is really helpful when you are trying to make a window look like it is different dimensions than it really is. And maybe it was designed that way because it needed to match something or work a certain way on the exterior, but on the interior, it just feels awkward. And that happens so often, unfortunately. But so cornices are so great. Roman shades as well, honestly, but for making it look like they're covering up maybe some of the window, but they're really just covering wall and making you think the window is bigger than it is. So they're incredibly versatile, and you can pair a cornice with drapery panels, of course, for that like finishing touch at the top for a more formal living room, or you can use one over woven shades for a casual coastal look, or install a simple upholstered cornice all by itself for a clean, tailored appearance. The key with both cornices and valances is balance. They should enhance the room, not overwhelm it. When chosen thoughtfully, they add personality and polish, proving once again that sometimes the details at the top of the window make the biggest impact. I think the most common way to use cornices and the most frequent way that I use them is in kitchens, where you have that kitchen window over top of a sink, and it's a smaller window, and it needs something on top of it to finish it off and balance out that line across the top of the cabinets, the wall cabinets. And so I'll often add a cornice just to add some more pops of color and tie it into the rest of the room without blocking the view. So now here's where the magic happens. The best designed rooms often layer window treatments. So think woven wood shades paired with linen drapery, or roller shades hidden behind elegant panels. Why layer? Because then you get flexibility. You can filter light during the day and create privacy at night. You can combine texture with softness. And frankly, layered windows just feel more luxurious. Even a simple room can instantly feel more curated. Fabric choice changes everything. I mentioned this at the very beginning. Linen is relaxed and timeless. Velvet feels rich and dramatic. Cotton is versatile and easy to live with. Silk is elegant, but often requires more care. And when it comes to color, you have two schools of thought. Option one, a blend. Choose fabrics that match your walls or major furnishings to create a serene, cohesive look. Or option two, contrast. Introduce pattern or a bold color to make the windows the focal point. Neither is right or wrong. The question is, do you want your windows to whisper or to sing? And there's so much that's important in selecting the right fabric for window treatments as well. Something that is often, I think, overlooked is what is the fiber content. When you're dealing with natural fibers, they are not going to hold up to strong sunlight and UV rays as well. Synthetic fibers are more durable. So if you especially have windows that are facing the south and they're getting the south sun, they are going to take a beating from that light. And if you were to hang 100% over top of a window that's getting a lot of light, they are going to droop. Their structure is going to change. And so I never use 100% linen on window treatments. If I need linen, I'll use a linen blend. So it's mixed with some synthetic fiber, and then it will be a little bit more structural, a lot more structural. And I'll still probably avoid any sort of linen blend on south-facing windows. So what are some common mistakes when it comes to window treatments? I'd say number one, the curtains are too short. They should generally skim the floor. They could also puddle on the floor. Sometimes people prefer that, but they should definitely barely just kiss the floor. Number two, not accounting for fullness. Thin, stretched out panels rarely look luxurious. More fabric creates softness and elegance. So you are not buying, the store-bought panels typically work like this, unfortunately. But if you're using functional panels, meaning they are meant to close over top of the window, and you have, let's say, a 36-inch wide window, you do not want two 18-inch panels that only extend to the end of your window. So when they're closed, it's literally like the fabric completely just covers that window, pulled completely taut. No, that's terrible. And so we need a lot more fabric than what the actual distance is that we're covering. And typically they will extend at least 10 inches beyond the window frame itself. So if you were just using fixed panels over top of a window, you would have a width, which is typically 18 inches, and it would be like half over the windowsill onto the wall, or not windowsill, the window frame over to the wall, and then the other half or so covering just that very side of the window. And those would be your two panels. And when people add pleats into the top of the drapery, so you'll have like a 2-finger pleat or a 3-finger pleat across the top, that just gathers more fabric and should make it more full. But I think one of the biggest problems I see is when people will have that done maybe by their own workroom or somebody who just can sew and put these together themselves. When you're using that kind of pleat and supposed to be using that much fabric and then not adding fullness underneath the drapes. And so that's what we refer to as bump or inner lining. And that's really just think of like a skirt that has tulle under it, right? Like a princess, like a ball gown type thing that makes the skirt super full. It's not the exact same thing. It's not that extreme, but that's what it's doing. It's kind of like a felt-ish type material. And so it's just adding that thickness beneath the fabric. So it's not just laying flat and hanging with no life to it. Okay. And then finally, I think another mistake that I often see is ignoring hardware. So curtain rods, rings, finials, these details matter. They're functional, yes, but they're also decorative. And so you have a lot of options. You'll see these options when you buy retail panels. You have like a tab top or grommets. Or you can, of course, get I think most of them are probably like you could do whatever you want with them. They're like situated for every option. So in working with a professional designer, you're never really going to see grommets used or really tab top. So we're typically going to use either rings with the hooks that are fixed into the back pinned into the back of the drapery, or it's that same thing, but they're on a rod where those hooks just slide across the bottom, and it makes it much easier so you're not sliding rings across a rod. And anything that is functional where you are going to be closing and opening, that's what you want. You want it on the track. So you're not just having to slide a bunch of rings back and forth over your rod, just wearing it down over time. All right. And the number 4 mistake that I often see, treating window treatments as an afterthought. So you've got to plan them early because they're part of the architecture of the room. They're not just simply an accessory. And planning them early helps you figure out the sunlight, how to protect the rest of the interior. Can you put an antique wooden table right in front of this window? Is it going to be protected? If you are going to hang art or mount sconces on the wall, how much room do you have next to that window? How close can you get to that window and allow for the drapery to hang there? All of that has to be figured in, and that's what an interior designer does in the planning process. So I think window treatments are one of the most powerful tools in interior design. And to be honest, it is one of the, I think, first things that people notice when you walk into a room and you see professionally well done window treatments. And you know instantly that a room has been professionally designed, or you instantly spot store-bought off the retail floor window treatments, and you can tell that it's not been done, and that's where they came from. And I'm not judging at all. I know not everybody has the budget for custom window treatments, but oftentimes it's a mix. You can manage to have, your larger featured windows, maybe even on the front of the house, done as a custom window treatment, and then kind of value engineer the other rooms. Window treatments are practical, they're beautiful, and they have this incredible ability to change not only how a room looks, but how it feels. So if you're living with bare windows because you're overwhelmed or unsure of where to start, consider this your invitation. Pick one room, decide how you want it to feel, and begin there. Because sometimes the smallest changes, the softness of linen, the glow of filtered light, the graceful sweep of drapery create the greatest sense of home. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to meeting you in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on Charm and Circumstance. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along on Instagram, because charm is personal and circumstance is what you make of it.